Chapter 14 begins a two-chapter series on nutrition through the life cycle. Chapter 14 discusses pregnancy and infancy, and Chapter 15 discusses much of the rest. Now, nutrition in pregnancy begins before one is pregnant. Avoid teratogens, substances known to cause birth defects, get adequate nutrition, and so forth. Your notes have this information. Now, there's also a brief section in the notes concerning the trimesters of pregnancy and what goes on during the 3 trimesters, so be sure to read through that. There's also some recommended weight gains based on the body mass index before pregnancy. I expect you to know those numbers as well. There are nutrition needs during pregnancy, such as calorie needs. The calorie needs are kind of modest, only about 350 kilocalories or so extra beyond what she would ordinarily need before she became pregnant. So again, nutrient-dense foods are the way to go. There's a list in your notes concerning some nutrients of issue and some specifics. Not everything from the chapter is in your notes. Go what I gave you from in the notes. Now, with nutrition-related concerns, some of these are lesser concerns and some of these are greater concerns. Morning sickness. Your book in your notes give you some tips on ways to alleviate that. Cravings and aversions, the message there is that what's being craved is not necessarily a source of the nutrient that the person needs. In other words, there's no link between what is being craved and the nutrient that the person may need. Cravings are just what they are, cravings. Reflux is common because, again, anything that puts pressure on the abdomen can cause things to back up. Be sure to read the notes on ways to alleviate that. Likewise, there are tips on how to alleviate constipation. Now, gestational diabetes is a little more of a concern because it can lead to a high birth weight baby. Hypertension, this includes preeclampsia and eclampsia. Read through what I told you about that because these are potentially serious and possibly life-threatening issues. Adolescent pregnancy is of particular concern because adolescents are often still growing. They're often underweight by adult standards, and therefore extra nutritional intervention would be required. Vegetarian pregnancy, this can be an issue with a vegan diet because the prenatal supplements generally do not factor that in. Now, can she exercise? Well, yes, especially if she's physically active already, but with precautions. Don't get too hot. Don't engage in activities that can be physically risky. Caffeine should be moderated at most. Alcohol should be avoided. There is no known safe level of drinking during pregnancy. Smoking reduces blood flow to the placenta and to the developing baby. Be sure to read about that. Drugs. This includes illegal drugs. This includes over-the-counter medications and unprescribed medications. They are not approved for pregnancy, and therefore they should be avoided when all possible. Food safety. This is the obvious. Try to avoid any high-risk food issues, mercury in fish, for example. Now, the next section is on lactation in terms of what the mother needs through lactating. Now, she'll go through quite a few calories in the production of breast milk, and that would necessitate an increase in calories, but not as high as the cost. So this is a way for maternal weight loss to happen. The amount of calories burned in breastfeeding is considerable. There's a little section on the pros and cons of breastfeeding. This can include such things as the presence of antibodies for immunological protection and so forth. The difficulties, this has to do with things like occupation and other social things. Now, then there's a section on infants and the growth pattern. Now, a typical infant will double birth weight in about 6 months and triple birth weight in about 1 year. So therefore, the calorie needs per unit body weight are highest during this stage of life. Now, babies are expected to have either breast milk or formula for the first year of life, and generally they become ready for solid foods around 6 months or so, depending upon their degree of readiness. There's a section on what not to give an infant. There's a section in your notes on formulas and how they meet industry standards. Same thing with baby foods. They have to meet industry standards. There are specialized formulas for special needs, and like hypoallergenic or hydrolyzed or so forth. What not to give an infant: honey, things that can cause choking. There's again a list of that to go through. Various concerns. Well, in addition to what we've already mentioned, there can be allergies. Infant allergies can be common. They say to introduce foods one at a time to detect allergies and other intolerances. That way they can be avoided and other foods can be given in their stead. Dehydration is an issue with infants. Again, in another chapter we talked about that. Colic is mentioned, anemia is mentioned. Nursing bottle syndrome, putting a baby to bed with a bottle can rot out their teeth. There's also a section in there on lead poisoning, how tap water is generally not advised to use for mixing baby formula because depending upon the house and the plumbing, there could be trace amounts of lead coming through the pipes. So be sure to study the notes and stick to what I gave you there.